Good morning, AP Calculus students. Today is Tuesday, March 24th, and I hope that you enjoyed the Khan Academy video on derivatives of the inverse, and I hope that you will find this just as interesting. This is section 5.8. These are also derivatives of the inverse, but these inverses are these are inverses of the trig functions. So let's take a look at these and see what we've got. So we have, remember from pre-calc and second year algebra, we have arc sine. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to give you their derivatives. There is a Khan Academy video which does develop how these derivatives came about. So if you're interested in that at the end, I'll tell you what the title is so you can go look and see why the derivative of arc sine is 1 over the square root of 1 minus x squared. So that's what we're looking at. So the derivative of arc sine, or the inverse sine of x, is 1 over the square root of 1 minus x squared. Now, what if it's the arc sine not just of x, but if it's the arc sine of f of x? Then it's going to be similar to this derivative here, except we're going to have to invoke the chain rule. So what do we get? Derivative of arc sine of f of x is 1 over the square root of 1 minus f of x quantity squared. See, this f of x goes in where the x was here, and it gets squared, times the derivative of what is our inside function. By chain rule, f of x is inside the arc sine, so by chain rule, we multiply by f prime of x at the end. So that's the gist of the arc sine. Now, the arc cosine looks a little similar to this. So the derivative of the arc cosine is really the same as the derivative of the arc sine, except it's negative. Negative 1 over the square root of 1 minus x squared. And similarly, for the derivative of the arc cosine of f of x, that would be negative 1 over the square root of 1 minus f of x squared times the derivative of f of x times f prime of x there. Okay, and then the last one we're going to look at is the derivative of the arc tangent, which is 1 over 1 plus x squared. So what if we're looking at the derivative of the arc tangent of f of x? That's 1 over 1 plus f of x squared times f prime of x. Now this is section 5.8. If you look this up in your book, you'll see that instead of f of x, they use u. But I like f of x better because it reminds me that this is a function inside a function. Okay. And these are derivatives. These are not integrals we're doing today. So let's see how they work. The basic question is, if I said y equals the arctangent of x, or as you know from pre-calc, we can write it as y equals the inverse tangent of x. Same, these are the same expression essentially there. And then the derivative will be just what we said it was going to be. Here's our arctangent. We said the derivative was 1 over 1 plus x squared, and that's what it is. We have the argument x, so we have 1 over 1 plus x squared. Done. But let's take a look when we have a function in place of that simple x right there. So let's do y equals the arc sine of 2x. So the derivative of the arc sine of f of x, I'm over here now, is going to be 1 over the square root of 1 minus the function 2x squared, that's what I set up here, times the derivative of the inside function, the derivative of 2x, which is 2. And then we just simplify that. We get 1 over the square root of 1 minus 4x squared times 2. So our final answer is y prime equals 2 over the square root of 1 minus 4x squared. Okay, let's look at another one. All right, let's see what we have next. Okay, so we have, I'm going to leave the rules here so you can see them as we do it. We have the derivative of arctangent of 3x. So derivative of arctangent of f of x is 1 over 1 plus the function squared. So it will be 1 over 1 plus our inside function 3x, and just that gets squared, not the whole denominator. 3x gets squared. times the derivative of 3x by a chain rule, which is 3. And we end up with 3 over 1 plus 9x squared. Not too bad, right? Okay, let's look at the next one. Did I do another one? Yes. Okay, so this one is the derivative of the arcsine of the square root of x. So the square root of x, that's a function inside the arcsine function. So let's go to the arcsine of f of x. So the derivative is going to be 1 over the square root of 1 minus the inside function squared. The inside function is the square root of x. So that's going to be 1 minus the square root of x squared times the derivative of the square root of x, which I'm sure you're experts at by now. 1/2 x to the negative 1/2 would be the derivative of the square root of x, which is really the derivative of x to the 1/2. All right, so we need to simplify this a little because we don't want to leave it like that. So we simplify our denominator by squaring the square root of x, and we end up with the square root of 1 minus x. Our numerator is still 1. And this is really 1 over 2 times the square root of x, which is 1 over 2 times the square root of x. And x is under the radical, and so is 1 minus x under the radical. They're both square roots. We can multiply them together and put them under the same radical. So we get 1 over 2 times the square root of x times the quantity 1 minus x, which if you distribute, you get 1 over 2 times the square root of x minus x squared. Okay. Let's try another one. So now, what if we just have y equals the arctangent of x quantity squared? Okay, that's the power rule version of the chain rule. So this is going to give us 2, keep the inside function the same, arctan x, drop the exponent by 1, and take the derivative of the inside function. The derivative of arctangent of x, we already saw the derivative was 1 over 1 plus x squared. And then we just simplify. 2 arctangent of x all over 1 plus x squared, that's our y prime. Okay, so that's the lesson for today. Let's see, I have an assignment on page 386, numbers 41, 42, 43, and 45. And if you want more practice, Khan Academy has a video on how these derivatives are arrived at, as well as some practice problems. You don't have to do those if you feel like you want more practice on this, or you want to see where those derivatives came from. The video is entitled Derivatives of the Inverse Trigonometric Functions. If you Google that, you'll come up with that Khan Academy video. Okay, also I do want to say that the AP has come out with some lessons this week starting on Wednesday. So I hope you all have my AP. I think we all logged into that at the beginning of the year. If you don't, please let me know if you don't have access to my AP, or if you don't see that they are going to have videos or lessons on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday of this week. All right, so my lesson for this week is to have you watch those AP videos, those videos put out by College Board. Okay, I'll write more about that in the group me tomorrow, but those lessons start on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. You can watch them at your leisure. I do believe they will also be on demand. Just would like you to have them done by the end of the week so that if you have any questions on any of those videos, we could talk about them on next Monday's class. And I believe some of the topics are going to be on differential equations, and hopefully you're familiar with some of this already. Okay, if you have any questions on anything, just email me, and I hope you have a great day.